Do you believe that if you step on the right foot with your left foot, it can go to the sky? Well, American viewers may not see this Chinese meme. So, who would believe that the United States is now using a series of financial measures against the dollar and US debt? Can still cover inflation? Can we continue to maintain US dollar credit? It took about 2 years for the US debt to reach 31 trillion from 30 trillion. Now, it has reached 33 trillion in 2 months, and the debt growth of 2 trillion. It can be said that the US dollar and US debt have entered a death spiral. Let's not talk about the risk of principal repayment. It is difficult to repay the 5% annual interest of the overissued US Treasury bonds. To put it bluntly, the United States has reached a period when all national usury is still unpaid. This is equivalent to your monthly salary of $10,000 with a debt of $100 million. Pay off your debt now by working part-time. At the same time, it also tells you that you can live a good life. Do you think it is ridiculous? Don't say Americans don't believe it. As long as this person is not stupid, no one in the world will believe him. This is the fundamental reason why the US government waved a big stick at the world. In the eyes of the Chinese, the great inflation in the United States is bound to come. How will the United States respond then? The 33 trillion national debt scale has already exceeded the critical point of US GDP repayment. So it is impossible to continue unlimited QE, and the United States will explode if it does not cut interest rates. Since more than a dozen rounds of interest rate hikes, domestic second-hand housing has risen by 34%, and oil prices have risen by 17%. While the stock market is soaring, some of the newly printed money has also flowed back. Looking at this price trend, the next wave will definitely be a big inflation. When the time comes, capital investment in fixed assets is one of the necessary options. So I think the Fed will definitely cut interest rates before the big inflation comes. Otherwise, big inflation coupled with continued interest rate hikes. US bank debt default bankruptcy and the total amount of US debt exceeded the US dollar credit bankruptcy. Which one can America afford? The answer is that no United States can afford it. This round of continuous interest rate hikes has harvested the world. The United States has not sucked any big country to death, and the small country has only sucked Sri Lanka to death. The most important thing is to let China's RMB already have its own settlement stage. Although this stage is not big yet, this seed is rapidly sprouting. Coupled with the divine assists of Biden's economics, for the election to replace the manufacturing industry, the return of the manufacturing industry and the restriction of raw materials, and the large-scale infrastructure projects along the Belt and Road with Chinese characteristics. I don't know how much these unreliable things will cost. Even me, a little Chinese commoner, knows this. Don't the American political elites know the truth that the more soldiers and horses they have without money and food, the faster they will die? US debt is the money and food of the United States. If no one buys US debt now, it means that no one will provide him with money and food. American politicians also know that this is an unsolvable problem. Then, when faced with this unsolvable problem, why does the US government propose all kinds of unreliable plans? Because the only thing they want to do is procrastinate until the end of the Russo-Ukrainian war. Because the end of the war needs rebuilding. Reconstruction is the only good news for the world economy in years. Moreover, the United States has already laid out the situation in advance. This wave of benefits will be released in the second half of 2024. US could get at least 2 years of halftime. And use this opportunity to implement President Biden's economics. So there is enough resources to beat China. Because from the perspective of the United States, only by defeating China can all the problems of the United States be solved. Similarly, from another perspective, many countries in the world are also expecting the failure of the United States. Because these countries believe that as long as the United States falls, 80% of the world's problems will be solved. Kind of like a whale fall in the ocean. Of course, it is impossible for the Chinese government not to know what the US government thinks, so it is also researching various advanced weapons in the Northwest and quickly manufacturing warships. In fact, I think the United States and China can make this planet a better place as long as American politicians let go of their stereotypes about the Chinese government. Now, other countries around the world are also choosing sides according to the development of the situation. According to a report, at the beginning of July, they made statistics on 23 developed countries in the world. South Korea is the most bullish on the US economy. 83% of the respondents. They say the US economy is number one in the world. Japan, Israel, and Poland share the same opinion. Do you think China is the most powerful country in the world? The highest is Italy with 55%. Followed by Vietnam and Brazil reached 54%. Also includes Greece, Spain, Germany, France. Many European countries. These are more than 50% of people. Believes that China's economy is stronger than that of the United States. It is also worth mentioning that Australia. He thought so too. The only thing different in the world is India. Indians think India is number one in the world. Overall, the world's major economies believe that the United States has a certain advantage. So it's hard to judge what the future will be like. As a Chinese, I love peace and don't want any war, otherwise it will be a disaster for this planet if China and the United States go to war.